I'm doing this right. Am I doing this right? Is that how I was supposed to do it?
Yeah.
I was supposed to.
And then we were working on something on the other screen there as well.
Hopefully.
We need Kathy help.
Yeah, hopefully Damien will come down and we'll figure out how to forget how to do this. I'm just so grateful that someone else comes down and does that. Right now I have two in Brampton. Yeah, they were in road meat before, which is on Rice Lake. And then I sold my cottage and was able to relocate them. So I have two in Brampton, but
Is Brampton a convenient location for you?
no.
Because I often get requests for people to put bees in Brampton.
Oh.
And I never know who to send them because it's like, it's not a convenient location for a lot of people.
Yeah, I know someone who had like a piece of land kind of next where one of their properties was, and they said it was a good spot of water and plants. So I went and checked it out and I thought, you know what, this actually could really be a good spot. So we put them there. One hive did great, yet their hive wasn't thriving. I don't know how and why. So now, and we haven't, it's still hot outside, like in the day, right? So up at the cottage, I would have put the cozies on.
Oh, well, I put my cozies on already.
Oh, you did?
Well, I had
Yeah.
surgery on my ankle last week, so I can't stand or walk or do anything.
Well, I mean, it's good.
So it doesn't matter when you put your cozies on, like, they don't overheat. The cozies work both ways. They keep, I mean, you can leave your cozies on year round if you want it.
Well, they're like an insulator, I guess, from the different flux and temperature.
I mean, they're black, so in the sun they would attract heat if your hives were white. But essentially, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. So I haven't covered them yet. But I was gonna go maybe this weekend, to be honest.
We were flying today, but it was so warm.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
My piece of my bees is like done. It's done. I had to do everything because, well, wasn't going. I was worried I wouldn't be able to walk at all. I didn't know what my recovery surgery would be like. So I did everything.
Where are your hives?
I have some hives in my front yard at Queen and Woodbine. I have some hives at 401 and Kale.
Okay.
I have hives in Coldwater, Ontario, and my main apiary is in Muskoka.
So Coldwater is probably on the way to Rice Lake, I think.
No. Coldwater's on the way to Georgian Bay.
Oh, because we have a Coldwater.
I'm sure there's more than one.
I'm like, I know where Coldwater is. But I guess it's another one.
Anybody coming down to volunteer at the Royal Winter Fair?
I honestly didn't try anything. Go to the
Oh, okay, so if you're an OBA, if you're an Ontario Beekeeper Association member, you would have gotten the information, so it's a great organization to join. I highly recommend it. So the Ontario Beekeepers Association runs a booth at the Royal Winter Fair. And they have 9 volunteers per day that come down and talk about bees to the public all day long. So it's pretty.
Dream.
That's what I mean. It's a pretty, but yeah, I mean, there's still,
Next year.
Yeah, well, next year we're gonna expand, I wanna expand the booth so that we can sell things at it. But it'll be difficult to do because we're gonna go from being an educational to a real exhibitor. Yeah, so we'll have to pay for our booth, but I'm gonna try and see if
Why
we
can't
can.
you just keep that one the same and then just open up a?
Well, I mean, we could have a second booth, but I'd like to try and keep it all in one, but we'll have to buy the booth. We'll have to negotiate with the Royal. The Royal doesn't charge us for it because we come in as an educator.
Yeah.
But the problem is that we're really limited, and I really think our beekeepers, I would like to use that opportunity for our beekeepers to be able to sell whatever they have. Not just honey, but whatever products from the hive they do or whatever, and so we'll see. I have big plans. I want to run like a honey tasting seminar, just a 20-minute one or whatever, but that the public can actually purchase to raise money to pay for the booth. And we want to do more public education through the Royal.
Yeah, no, you know what? I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, so I'm supposed to have a presentation ready for Friday about honey. Yeah, I'll work on it. That's what tomorrow's for, right?
Yep.
I haven't seen you. in a
I
long
know,
time.
I'm, oh my God.
I know. What does that mean? Oh my God.
Did you get it or not, or can I still do it? Okay, good. I'm so sorry.
She didn't do it yet?
No. I know I am.
You know what you should have done is you should have written out what you wanted us to
No.
say.
No, because I want it to be
No,
personal.
yeah,
Okay,
no.
but then if you'd have covered, yes, but if you'd have covered key points, it just helps the
No,
writer.
no, I should have done it. Yeah. We were, six. Yeah,
Yes, I know, but I mean, from a.
do you still have an
functional
opportunity to get it though?
Yeah, my dad is like, it's not worth as much as they're asking for.
standpoint, nothing is.
And it's hard to know with the market, whether I'm missing out, like if I should just drop the money and get it because I'm trying to buy a farm. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, whether it's just like, it's the market rate, there's a lot of repairs to do. And if I put all my money into just buying it, I won't be able to afford to do the repairs in the community space that I want. If I underbid, is he just gonna laugh at me?
If you underbid, the worst, that's right, the worst he could do is do a counter offer, never offer more than than works, because he's always gonna come back.
But there's like $100,000 of repairs to do. A lot of them I can do myself, but still,
I know.
I'm just like, okay.
But he knows
more
that,
part.
right? He knows
He
that.
sure does. Because he's the one who left it to fall into shambles.
Exactly.
I was telling somebody about you and then thinking, okay, I'm gonna go home and write it down. And she said like that's the metal stone.
It is, that's,
Drywall.
yeah, that's where we organize all our dry stone festival. I brought my little honey things.
I'm gonna do honey tasting of the world, even though I'm not allowed to, and I'm gonna use egg yolks and freeze ball. I'll give it a.
That's smart. I brought hand sanitizer instead and popsicle sticks.
I thought about popsicle sticks, but I have like potentially 300,000 people.
Yeah,
in the world, so-
you could build a popsicle stick.
Yeah, so I thought, so I thought I'd get wider. I mean, I can get fettuccine, but for linguine or whatever the widest one is. Yeah, I still have till Friday to do that. Oh my gosh. And we're going down tonight after this to set up the OBA booth at the Royal. Exciting, but it's a lot of work.
Tell us.
Oh, so these ones are all from Italy, from Apiary in Sicily. This one is from Northern Ireland, also known as Ireland.
I just finished watching Dairy Girls.
Oh, yes, so you know. And then
These
these,
honey, right?
they're all, yeah, and then these are all from Spain. So these are from Valencia. So, yeah, one got taped because it got a little, I tried to hide them in my boots and my shoes and my luggage. And
Well, it's helpful.
I have a few sweet boots now, with some exploded. But it was really cool. This one, the mayor of Valencia, like on the mayoral building is where the apiary is, and they gave me a tour and everything, and they were like super excited about this one. This one, I went to a museum of like beekeeping that was really cool, where they had all these stuff of how they used to beekeep back in the day. And
Italy
so-
is so much better at bee education.
Oh, really?
my gosh, especially about honey. I mean, they have an entire honey council whose responsibility is to preserve the purity of varietals and have standards and
Yeah.
they have like a VQA for honey.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like this one's a chestnut honey.
Oh,
How cool is that?
have you tasted it?
No, I'm waiting to taste it with everyone.
Oh,
Did you
okay.
try any in
Should-
Ireland while you were
Yeah, yeah, I
Just
tried
I was
them, they
gonna
were
say,
all,
yeah.
yeah, I did sample them.
I know
yeah,
what
but-
French chestnut honey tastes like.
Yeah.
I know what the flavor profile is.
This one is like a Mandarin flavored
Yeah.
one.
Just like it's-
Marion with this book.
Oh.
Oh my god, I forgot. It's like close to Spanish, but it's not. So man, orange, and I think this is lemon, I should look it up.
Yeah, they were here for the top. Yeah.
They said they're gonna be a few minutes late.
This is
Andrew.
Andrew.
Andrew?
That's his truck. That he carries everything around and he's
Funny.
got,
Oh my God, that is so
he's
amazing.
got tons and tons of those, and that's just a picture of there I am with his book. And he in his t-shirt.
Yeah, so we could go down and we could do some trips
Oh,
soon
we love that.
when COVID's over.
This is Andrew's truck in the market in Union Square. And there he is.
Oh, fantastic.
Got his book.
Oh my god, so
Yeah,
cool.
really fun.
So Melanie Kempers is coming
Good.
with Paul Kelly tonight. She's the manager of the Ontario Beekeepers Association. Given that we're going down to the Royal to put up the booths, so.
That's his truck, and that's him, this is his marketing.
Did you get your copy of this?
No.
I like t-shirt.
I gotta figure out how to get it to all the members.
Bring it.
Well, you know, you can download it, right? Like, it's available.
Yeah, no, but.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, the tangible.
Feeling
copy.
good.
I wanted to redo it and pay to have it. Read that. Because we'll have some changes to do for the next copy of it. But I need to get rid of something. I need to get rid of all 500 of the copies. We sold 100. Although I don't know if we've received payment for it, so I need to check on that. Yeah. No, that doesn't cover our costs. We have to sell 225. I forget.
It's really too bad that we couldn't take them down there to do it.
Yes, I know. If I could take, you know, I'm gonna take them to the OBA conference.
Oh,
I'm gonna sell them at the conference.
I thought there'd be more people here. You made all this.
Most people are coming
we were
online.
trying
Oh, there's still 12 people coming here. There's
We were trying to entice people.
the free dinner was all right.
Hello. Yeah, a little bitter.
It's on the side.
Or other side. And Paul Kelly and all of them now are and they are about 10 minutes there, or 10 minutes late.
I can see that and that. Stay on the side. Want to be on the
So,
other
like
side?
I said, tried to make it worth their
Yeah.
while.
You good? Okay. That's your foot.
Pretty good, all things considered. Yeah. I had surgery
Oh,
to correct my foot architecture. So I had a very high tech device installed in between two bones
Nice.
so that my foot doesn't collapse when I walk anymore. No, it's like really good. It's like yeah, very high tech.
You okay? No, I had a knife on there and I don't know where it went to.
Planter.
Right? Yeah. Oh, this one also.
Okay. I went to go to the farm to hang out with the bees this weekend because it's so beautiful, and I went to get out of bed and I was like, and I just crawled my way like around my apartment and was like, oh, this is bad. And then I Googled it, of course, danger, but it was very useful. I was like, okay, you need to relax and just wear.
Do your little exercises and jelly and souls for
ice.
Yeah.
And they like. If they're. And then it just goes away. And that's, yep.
Oh, I have bones for it.
And that's exactly what happened to me, but it got to the point where you don't want to get up. So bad, right?
And the client I'm looking for right now is doing a dry stone arch for his,
We're beekeepers, come do it up.
when you have money. I'm like, do you want to help me buy my farm?
Yeah,
Just for he's a sweetheart. And he was like, yeah, I had it for years.
And there's, isn't that weird though? Like you said, it's 1 year and then it just goes
I
away.
don't know what happened, though. I have bone spurs. My planter is so full that I have big bone spurs underneath. I may have to go for surgery after.
Oh.
The same what? I have it on both feet. I have the same problem on both feet of my house, the fallen architecture. So I'll have the surgery done on my left foot next year. But I can afford a 1 month in the driving.
Right.
If you're gonna walk in circles until the.
I would, except for I'm getting new orthotics that should balance it out. But you know, I have to wear this little surgical suit or whatever, and it has a really big thick sole on it. So in the middle of the night, I have to go to the bathroom. I have to put like a shoe on. Otherwise.
Yeah, weird at night.
Boot, I don't have a boot. Should I get a boot?
Or that, see, that thing.
I
they
don't
wear
have
till-
to.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So this is, that's the Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Explain something.
So,
Coming for 2 years.
Hold your foot up like
Cameras
that.
on right there.
I don't want you to talk.
My wife had that, and she had that thing that held her,
Yes.
like holds your foot.
Oh.
She swears by it. I don't.
Yeah, no, like the same
Yeah,
idea.
she's like-
Yeah. It's the same idea as wearing like boots.
Yeah,
It just keeps it in that position and
Yeah, yeah.
that is the only way I got relief.
so, yeah, she tried everything, and then this thing. She feels like fixed it.
I forget what we had to do to get the
second
cameras over there.
We didn't do much. I think when we had people logged in, they started to populate the side.
Yeah, I can see. Bye.
I can see.
If you move it over there and hit gallery, that might.
That, is that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But
Yeah, then the other people will show up there, sure.
I'm sorry.
right now it's in speaker view. So hit the. All the way over there to the. See the 3x3. White button at the top. There you go. Try the other one. Show grid video. No, that's what you want.
There's somewhere where you.
Don't freeze.
Because I wasn't taking part.
Sorry, it's just easier for simple.
Absolutely.
How many are on YouTube?
We're glad to have you back.
Good to be.
Yeah. Paul and Melanie are driving in from Guelph, and so they said that they're a little bit behind. They're about 10 minutes, they'll be about 10 minutes. Can we wait? Marion, can we wait?
Sure, that's fine, no problem.
Susan, are you okay to hang around a little longer? Cormier?
Can you put everybody? Oh, maybe she's not in her thing yet. Yes, you will do.
Okay, so just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
So everybody knows, if somebody shows up with a USB and you want to show something off a USB. Unplug this and plug it into this USB.
That one right there.
This is just a charging cord, so
Okay.
this works without it being plugged in. Or the other option is to plug it right into the computer right here.
Okay. I don't know if Paul is going to be present. I don't know how.
He brought his laptop.
That's okay, then he just hooks it up here.
Susan, are you okay to hang around our main speaker?
That may present, I don't know if that's gonna present.
Are you okay to hang around,
So
or we
I
can-
use that setup when I teach at UT. But I don't know that you'll be able to do both in unison. I've never tried to have a Zoom meeting and a laptop input projector. So you may just ask him to email you the presentation.
Oh, what he can do is set up his laptop and he can be on Zoom through his laptop.
Right.
Oh, yes. Good call.
Yeah, as long as he has.
As long as he's muted everything.
Yeah, but he would need to have a Wi-Fi connection.
Not if it's local. Oh, to get on Zoom. Yeah, yeah. The most parsimonious solution is gonna be if he gives you the slides.
We've lost our audio.
Yeah, they can.
They can't hear us. Oh,
Marion?
I can hear you.
Okay,
no problem.
Susan?
Hello.
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 So, our main speaker's a little bit late. Are you okay to stay around, or we can get going and then get you?
He said he'd be about 10 minutes.
It's 3:30 in the afternoon here. You got me all day until dinner.
All right.
I'm good. Whatever. I'm just pleased to be here.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he would just have to. He would just have to log on to Zoom. And then it will come in.
I did not send
He
him
doesn't-
the
he
link,
needs to
so
log.
I'll just send him the link.
Yes. Hi, Fred.
He could email.
But he would have to be on the internet in order to join by Zoom.
Yes.
Well, he could make a hotspot, but it would be very, yeah, it'd be a bit long and convoluted to get on the Wi-Fi here.
If he's got a slide deck and he gets it to you, that's gonna be the easiest.
Well, we'll find out when he gets here. No use. No use.
You have that USB drive, you could just put it on that and then plug it in. You showed us a USB stick, just.
Yeah, but I haven't.
He hasn't done it as part of the Zoom.
It's just a drive.
But Damien has. so-
Yeah, it's,
So, yeah, you can have
yeah, it's just gonna be a thumb drive and you're just gonna open it.
So the people would be over there, the speaker,
So
the Zoom people would be over there, and this would just.
I believe that's how it happened last time. That part I'm not so sure about, but the file itself can be transferred any number of ways. That USB would be the most parsimonious because there's no internet involved. You just give me your slides and all the slides are on this computer.
Let's come to voice of the storm.
Last,
Well, I can try it with-
yes, just share something. I think last week it just kind of slid over.
So what days are you guys coming to the Royal?
Saturday from 9 to 1. So yeah. Remember I told you that we're gonna be at it's like the NC State Fair, but it's the
Yeah.
Ontario.
It's just indoors because it's November.
Yeah, so we're gonna go volunteer at the bee booth. Tell people about bees and stuff.
We have an observation hive there. Paul's bringing one. And we're bringing the extraction trailer, so you know how that
Remember
works.
the trailer? She's gonna bring her trailer. Are you gonna be there on Saturday morning?
I am there for the entire thing.
Sorry, is that a sore spot?
No, no. I am there.
Yes, and we'll see you Saturday morning. Actually, with the strike, with the teacher strike, we're gonna go to the apiary Friday, so it'll actually work out pretty well this weekend. The weather's supposed to be nice. Yeah, it's unfortunate, the circumstances, but he's not complaining.
Oh,
It is what it is.
Okay, so this is
No,
off the
can you
USB.
see
right,
it goes
okay,
right
so
on
when
straight?
he comes, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see, it just kind of shifts over.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a great recipe in case anyone.
All right.
I'm getting used to the government trying to force teachers back.
We have
Okay,
an outlet.
I
have
don't
no
think
idea
the
what
public knows like how good the teachers have it.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It's not the teachers, it's
No,
the
I know, I
classroom.
don't.
Oh, yeah.
There's good, like, there's a lot of money that can go around in our
Michelle.
and to harness it against teachers, like, nobody goes on strike for fun. Strikes cost people a lot.
They've
Have you had an increase in the
Michelle.
last 3 years?
I'm not a teacher.
Have you had an increase in the last 3 years?
In terms of my pay,
It's,
yeah, well, my boss is gonna give me an increase this year.
This year, but 11% and.
11% for 4 years.
Probably.
Not, that one's
Thanks, gotta increase. Last few years.
Kind of sound.
My girlfriend's daughter is homeschooling.
The root vegetables. You know, I think if I just took some root vegetables, I think you can nail that. So you can-
Yeah.
And had a,
I didn't even make it get up. I just wanted to.
that's what she has to put up with her.
So was this incentive to try to get more people in the
It
door?
was.
So I don't know. It's very difficult.
So feed them. Have we determined, are there any vegans here, or can I put yoga cheese on?
At a university, you're good to go. You know, like, it's a lot better. And even then, like, I have friends who are teach at universities and they have tenure track positions. And they still have to they can't get a mortgage by themselves. They have to be 2, 3 people because the cost of living is so much.
Hi, how are you?
Their kids' school.
It's up to you. You do your own thing. It's not required by the university.
And then they.
I actually just came off getting COVID, so I actually feel pretty robust.
Yeah. I wasn't wearing them, but then everybody else was, and I was like.
You know what? It's like,
I'll go with the. Are
that's exactly how I feel.
you guys more comfortable with it? Like the consent conversation, but not with everyone. It's really funny. Like, have you been anywhere with anybody doing literally anything? Okay, cool. You know,
I want to make the announcement. If you need to
Oh,
wash, you can wash them right directly across.
Does anybody have any nut allergies?
no, thank
You
you.
don't have to use the button store.
Now, what about the goatees? Does anybody have any dairy issues?
There's a bathroom right there too.
Any problems with goatees? No vegans in the room. No, it's very unusual for.
Yes, it is. So my parents are vegan for health reasons.
Yeah.
When they were in their early 50s. They switched because my father had high blood pressure and the doctor was trying to give him meds. He's like, no, I got this. But so I could see a situation like that. But I think
Yeah,
you're right.
even beekeepers are rarely.
Yeah.
They're vegetarian, yes, but not usually vegan.
Yeah, but I would say moral. There is.
Oh, yeah.
There is that kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, I prefer, I believe in ethical eating, but, I'm also a realist and,
Yeah. I think it makes me to make you get off your feet. I was just gonna feel the move vegetables on the top. I'm gonna take a little bit of this.
and I think that this was. Couldn't decide if it was dressed enough.
It was wonderful. I'm not.
So we kept going. Hello. Welcome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I asked, are they fine? Like, after like 6 months here, I'm like. Yeah, we had one friend of mine, we actually worked at a hospital. And I know that works for the direction. Well, I mean, no. But I here's some water. So I think all I need to do is give you a memory stick, right?
All right,
And so.
and those onions, they are potent. The big thing, onions.
So it's regional self-sufficiency.
Now we're just giving
Okay.
Okay. Start.
Yeah.
So. We're up here on this screen.
Yes.
And how does the new stuff work?
You have a presentation?
Yeah, it's right.
The stick is right here.
Okay.
No, I don't.
It's okay.
On that one?
Yeah, it's flipped over because you shared the screen. Or pulled that screen up. So you should be able to then browse his drive. There you go.
Great, so. Yeah, that one with Michigan. She's the executive. You're not Michigan, I know.
That's okay, we can be Michigan. Close enough. Okay, so, do you want to start the meeting now, Lucy? Yep. And we.
I'm not gonna be able to see the presentation. Other than.
Is that a problem?
But no, where's the camera for
We
this?
can all over the room.
The camera's there.
All right.
It's a long view. I think if you just look at it.
That's the slides.
That's kind of far for him to be.
And can that keyboard move? Can you hand him the keyboard?
Move it over here and over here. It's still work. I'm just gonna try.
Keyboard's not plugged in.
It's not plugged in.
Okay, so it's a. And,
How did you adapt that?
I didn't.
Oh, we're not on the first slide.
So there. I can sign into this meeting from my phone, right? 'Cause I need to make somebody else a co-host in case other people join.
I can do that here if you want. Why don't you do that way you're not logged in twice? We'll just do it. All right, just give me a second. I
I
want
can't
to.
make you a co-host unless I'm logged into something. I have to take over.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Click on the bottom down there. The arrow. Yeah, there.
Oh, this is- I can't
Here, put
get
it on.
that in
Put
the
it on.
class.
Well, you can have an assistant. You can have an assistant and we can just say next slide and we can assist you.
How are you doing?
The arrow keys should do the same thing, though.
Yeah, on the arrow key on the keyboard.
Yeah, it's not doing it. though. It might be now.
Oh,
It
it
is
is
now. Fantastic.
Okay, now
All
why,
right.
why don't we?
I want to go back to the beginning. No, we're going the wrong direction. So forward is back and backwards is forward.
Okay, I'm just gonna try to find.
Where are we here? That's 20. How do we get to 20?
Now you're going back.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
That's the pretty blonde.
All right, and that's forward.
We
And
lost
that's
all of
back.
our Zoom. We
Okay.
lost our Zoom. We've lost our Zoom people.
The other thing you can.
Yes. So the specifics, if you get out of full screen, you might see.
Yeah, she's good, yeah.
Yes,
Our people.
good.
Camera down at the bottom.
Yeah, so if you open the meeting, yeah. And then,
There we are.
and now try to share his slide deck as well. I think it's opened and there you go.
There you are. Oh, it won't show them at the same time?
There was a,
That's okay, we can start and then share screen.
The people at home can see. Can you see Marion? The
Yes, I
slide?
can see, I can't see the slides. I can just see the table where everyone's sitting around.
so try sharing the screen and see if that bumps it over as it did last time. So if you go to Zoom and do share and select his presentation.
Zoom share.
The other, you want to go to the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, so click there. Now click on her face.
So the host is currently disabled of the participants' screen sharing.
Hold on, I guess I'm gonna have to.
Yeah,
Share screen over here.
yes, that's correct. That's what you want.
Go in there though and get-
Just like a backseat driver at this point. Well, so I'm gonna join, quickly set that up and then you can share his presentation and that should kick the participants over to the smaller screen as it did
Okay.
last time. So let me just get on there real quick.
Can you use my credentials?
I have my own credentials. Then you make me here in the screen, a co-host. Sorry, I take it all for granted because I have to use it so much.
But it was, funny, but.
You could extend your displays and then one would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have people building up. Okay, so I can't even let you in the meeting.
Can't why not?
Mouse.
Get the mouse. Yeah.
Just share it.
Here, can I? Let me come over and just do this. All right.
I can't see, Damien. I need to be able to allow all participants to share a screen.
Yes. So
I
here,
can't see from here.
There's
You have to go to your participants and click on the security.
It's just
Yeah, get rid of that screen. It's over,
so hold on.
all the way to the left.
Oh, wait, okay.
Security. And then allow share screen at the midpoint. Yeah, right there.
There,
Go down one.
that one,
Yeah, up
there,
there.
that one. Okay, you understand, I can't see because my glasses aren't good enough. That was my problem. I know how to do it, but now I can't see the screen. There we are. And now we're gonna take over. Oh, we're all collaborative here, aren't we?
yeah, sorry, I just want to.
Don't wanna cheat the people out of knowing.
I'm getting new glasses. I'm getting new glasses, but right now.
She always.
That seemed to be up to two.
Snappy over here.
And then we're just gonna put this in gallery view. So we can
And then don't
see.
forget to make yourself a co-host so that you can let people in.
All righty,
Thank you.
there's my name.
Marion, you can see the slide?
I can see Paul's slide, yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you. So
Okay.
now you can admit
Now
everybody's
now
morning.
everyone should be good.
Let Marion share. Does Marion have the ability to share?
Everyone has the
Okay.
ability to share.
Okay.
May have technology. It's on slideshow, but it's.
So, yeah, so now if you do his full screen, it'll look good for everybody. Yes. Okay. Or is it showing on the other screen now?
You on a reader mode?
So it looks like it's putting everything on the small screen. But I don't know the reason for that in this room. Probably in the panel.
And the mode isn't player. It's not, if you go up to, it's not in player mode.
Let's see, the slide that is on the small screen here.
Oh, got it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, like move the whole Zoom over to the screen.
Yeah, that's what we want. So see this is the displays, right? So we want to go to projector. Oh,
No, we
no, we don't. Damn it. All right, so just go back to.
Think they know everything.
Hey, listen, in a couple of minutes, we're gonna have like the transponders are gonna come down over top of us and we're gonna.
Not presentation, don't put it on
No.
presentation.
This is where you were. Yeah, this is gonna go back to the other, because this is gonna take that computer.
It's on that one down there.
Oh. What we need to do is put the Zoom meeting back over here.
Yeah. So you can, what you need to do is minimize this slide deck again, slide everything over. So exit full screen. And you can look at.
How do you say everything?
Just get a Mac.
It's covered right now by the bar.
Hello.
It's like, and
Right
my
now-
glasses
right now
aren't good.
it's- What's happening is you're presenting and it's got his presentation on that. If you stop sharing, it will minimize that again and you'll get the full control of Zoom back.
Oh, okay.
So-
Stop there.
Correct. Stop share.
Now
Now-
move this over.
Yes.
Right.
Hey,
Now, why is this over here now?
I think when he went into presentation mode in PowerPoint, it's frozen on that monitor.
but how's he gonna be able to?
Can we see?
So the audience on Zoom can see the presentation regardless, because you're sharing that, it doesn't matter what monitor it's on.
Right.
You could proceed and we could look at the small monitor at this point if you wanted to.
That's fine, as
Yeah.
long as Paul is okay knowing where he is within his presentation.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's not his first screen though, right?
I just need to look at the specifics of the system, but
Can we get Paul's slide back to his first slide?
I think you just. No,
No, you don't want that.
just want to share his deck
That's already done.
and then
Do that to the PowerPoint.
you just want to share his deck.
So how did you share? I want to control it.
You select his deck if you want to be
You drive
specific.
in from Guelph.
Cambridge, then Guelph, then here, yeah.
Is.
Well, it's not that they're dirty, it's that the coating has worn off.
Your thoughts?
It's time.
Yeah, it's not that they're dirty, it's that the coating is worn off.
Is the presentation, he'll be able to use the.
It's good enough like that.
And then if you want to go back to Zoom. See what do you want to see on Zoom, the people or?
Well, we can see.
One notion.
Okay, so. Yeah, so we can.
Oh,
So I generally don't use PowerPoint, I use
I know.
code, so somebody else is gonna work on it. Yes. Somebody else is gonna have to figure out PowerPoint, because I didn't use.
I think I can handle that.
Can you see this slide, Marion?
I can see the slide is actually to the Regency self-sufficiency. I guess it's the introductory slide, and then the package B's east, replace losses, west,
Everything.
cyanide. That's what I'm seeing.
So it's the same as what we're seeing. And I think, is that good, big enough for you at home there?
It's not a huge screen. It is readable, but it is looks like a split screen the way it is.
Okay, so.
It's in presenter mode then. You have to take it off presenter mode.
Yeah, use presenter
I
mode.
don't use Microsoft, I use Microsoft.
You know, like I said, I'm,
You know how to do that quickly?
Yeah, it would be in the.
Menu here.
Hey, man, you just let those people in.
he did.
If we could get, if there's some way of getting rid of
I
the.
don't think so.
Toolbar.
This one, the Zoom toolbar?
The Zoom toolbar, because it's hiding.
Got it,
the-
got
the
it,
menu
it
for-
is, it
for
is.
PowerPoint.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Oh, more over there.
yeah. Presenter view? Which one do you want?
But
And,
no, I don't think this view is.
No, that's yes. The reader mode, you Kathy said the reader mode, the little book.
It's shared. See, it's already shared.
Yeah, you can make the slide itself bigger.
Can I see?
Slide to the right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I don't. Yeah, it's just, it's not making the windows.
Yep, go ahead, there we are.
We'll present your thing to performance dance.
But the problem is that it's.
Just go to
If you go back
resume
to
slide,
Zoom
Joe.
again.
Just try resuming slide.
Yeah, resume slideshow.
Right there, no.
So it's the red is underneath the.
Yeah.
The Zoom control bar is over top of the PowerPoint.
You can't slide that out of the way. Can you put it on the slide?
Minimize the.
There we are, so.
Let's go to view. Okay.
Yeah, one last thing.
It's slideshow, it's slideshow tab.
I want to get rid
Put it
of-
normal.
you have.
Let's try that.
Paul's right, you want normal on the, you want all the way there, yeah. And then F5 and you're good to go.
So we've done for this. So we're gonna have a nice day for flights. So we're not. I just
So
like.
the
having
share
this big-
screen is just for the online controls, it's not for the presentation.
No, but if you which one you should
Should
check.
it be in, should it be in?
No,
slideshow
that's.
Before you share.
Are our chats okay?
Yes.
You check
that's
the
right.
back,
figure out.
Okay.
Right, like you have your notes which show up and that's why you're seeing that side by side scale.
As long as they're not important.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just, it's another, I think the issue that we're facing here is that there's no one person designated who knows how to use the system. You know, it's gonna slow us down every time.
Presented by a speaker.
Because it's already.
What do we get when we click on
So
slide?
if you stop sharing.
Yeah.
I got it. She did.
Oh, now, yes, pick this one, not that one.
And the same thing.
Right, we can try it.
These are unused. These not-
You're not sympathetic.
We try to
You're not
understand
sympathetic.
slideshow
We did
presented by a
balance
speaker.
Share the-
that, like, something.
That's looking a lot better.
Okay.
It is.
On that,
It was.
This one, the PowerPoint.
This is the one we want, not
I've
that.
had it twice. Almost back to that.
That looks good.
It's good.
so-
Now, this is what we want over on this.
That's
page.
correct. Well, at home, are you seeing just one slide that says regional self?
They are, I can see what they see and they are. seeing
Okay, yeah,
it.
all right.
Yes, that's what
Okay,
they
so
see.
now we just need to be seeing that too. But you
You're
guys
over
are
there,
all
Paul.
right with
You're
this.
over there.
Yeah, fine.
And we can see here.
Wednesday.
On
He's gonna use the arrow keys on the keyboard.
All right. Okay, Lucy's gonna start the meeting now.
Thank you for your patience and welcome to November.
Yes. Can I
Our
say
November
Chicago, so
UTBA
it's great.
meeting. We're gonna start with Marion, Whittam, and the beekeeping.
Chicago, yeah,
Yeah.
great, love it.
Hey, guys.
Excuse
Marion?
She can't share with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. There we go. Hold on here. Yeah, where's the slideshow? Here we go. Well, good evening, everyone, and I'm Marion Whittam, the interim chair for the UTBA, the vice chair. And it's my pleasure tonight to present the Beekeepers calendar. I do this every month. Just a little bit of a promo for our Beekeepers calendar that we have posted on our website. Last year, there was a team of folks from UTBA that worked really diligently throughout the winter season to compose this UTBA beekeeping calendar for Toronto and the GTA. It's a 24-page color calendar which contains information about monthly duties that you do inside or in the apiary, the climate data for Toronto, which is really interesting, the flowers in bloom, as well as beautiful pictures. So the final page also has a lot of resources about beekeeping and references, and also information about videos, blogs, and websites. So it's a very valuable tool. If you do go to our website, you can just download it yourself, or every paid UTBA member is eligible to get a free printed copy of the calendar. And to arrange the shipping of the calendar, please contact Alin, and his actual email address is in that presentation here. The educational references that I use, I always teach using educational references so that people can go back and take a look at them. These presentations are recorded and raised up into YouTube so that there is a reference there. I highly rely on the OBA Tech Transfer YouTube video, and I recommend it for the bee yard preparation for winter, how to install entrance reducers, oxalic acid application, ventilation, and wrapping. It's excellent. The OMAFRA website has best management practices for winter colonies in Ontario's. And there's also the best management practice to prepare your hives for winter. So great resources for you as we start to really close down our bee yards. The other thing I highly recommend is the Honeybee Research Center at the University of Guelph. It has over 60 videos and resources for you. They're all free. You just have to log on to that website. And hard copy resources that I use do Karen's, a very reliable reference, Stories Beekeeping, Keeping Bees, and the Tech Transfer reference manuals, all excellent resources. So preparing your hives for into the winter season, you've probably already prepared your wraps and covers for installation. Determine if your hives need any shelter from the elements. If so, you could gather some materials that might help, some hay, bales of hay, whatever, to kind of shelter them. You install your entrance reducers and mouse guards if you've not already done it. I think most people probably have. Install and secure the winter covers to insulate it. And remember to make sure that there's adequate ventilation to prevent moisture buildup. Leave an upward entrance open to exhaust. You also might consider tilting those hives slightly, a few degrees, to let any moisture drain out to the bottom of the hive. And consider attending the OBA AGM meeting, which is coming up very soon in Kingston, Ontario. And it's November 18th, 19th. So that's something that you should consider really going to. And ensure your OMAFRA beekeeper certificates are current, and if they are about to expire, then make sure that you get that registration done and that certificate obtained. And that's also for the beekeeper that has hives and for the new beekeeper. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that at the end of my presentation. And important information about oxalic acid. If you are thinking about using oxalic acid treatments, then remember that oxalic acid is applied when all of the brood rearing has ceased. And for more information, go back to that, the tech transfer video and the OntarioBee.com outreach publications. Very good resources. A couple of things about the Ontario Beekeepers Association update. It is November 18th and 19th in Kingston. There will not be a dinner this year. Instead, there will be games and networking on the Friday night. There's a great agenda of speakers. The event is open to all OBA members attending the meeting. There's also an opportunity to share your honey. In other words, you bring 3 500 ml jars of honey to the conference. You can leave those and choose 3. In the past, I've done that. It's a great opportunity to taste other people's honey. And consult the OBA website for more information about the AGM. And just to let you know that the early bird registration does end on November 4th. It does save you some money if you register before that date. The OBA strategic plan for 2023 to 2028, Michelle Wilson is our UTBA chair, as you know, and a member of the OBA board of directors. And she's also the chair, she's volunteered to be the chair of the communication strategy committee for bringing the OBA in from 2023 to 2028 with new communication strategies. The second meeting for the OBA volunteer members was on October 26th by Zoom. And Michelle has now gathering her working members group who will review the existing OBA modes of communication and then focus on continuous improvement of this OBA communication from 2023 to 2028. And I am participating in this working group, and watch for more updates from me. With respect to the tech transfer workshop in November of 2022, the Royal Winter Fair and OMAFRA registration, here's a little bit more about that. The tech transfer has advanced pest management workshop on November 17th in Kingston prior to the conference on the 18th. You can learn more about advanced rural biology, advanced nosema biology, microscope identification, pesticide impacts, building an integrated pest management system, and much more. See the OBA website for more information. I have taken that course and it is a wonderful course. The Royal Agricultural Winter Fair is going to be coming up on November 4th to 13th. The theme is celebrating a century of champions. Michelle Wilson will have her honey extraction trailer at the Royal Winter Fair, along with a presentation on honey. Please drop by the booth to network with the various beekeepers and view the honey competitions, categories, and winners. And last but not least, before I go on to leave this presentation, just a word about the AMAFRA Beekeeping Certificate of Registration. The Bees Act is legislation that regulates beekeepers in Ontario. The main purpose of this act is to protect the health of honeybees and includes requirements that beekeepers or anyone possessing beekeeping equipment to obtain a certificate of registration from AMAFRA. A valid registration is required for all beekeepers, and a proof of registration is needed to apply for permits, funding programs, to receive honey bee inspection services from AMAFRA, and to obtain the OBA liability insurance for your bees. The registration is free. Beekeepers whose certificates of registration are expiring this year are required to submit their re-registration forms. New beekeepers also need to apply for their certificate, and there's more information on the AMAFRA website about how to obtain this certificate. So just to let you know that winter is coming, and be well prepared and be well, and you'll see what happens is here's your bees and the lovely flowers, and here's your bees, and this is a little bit of a joke, but they're all wrapped up in their toques and taking a look at the ice crystals. That's not really how it happens, but that just a little bit of a joke, just to let you know. This winter is coming fast and furious. Have a wonderful month of November, and we'll talk in December. Back to you, Lucy.
Thanks, Marion. Okay, we're moving on to Be Educated. Métis writer Susan Cormier works in print, performance, and film. Her essay, Advice to a New Beekeeper, recently won CBC's National Prize in Nonfiction. Other awards she has won or been shortlisted for include the Federation of BC Writers Literary Award, the Hemingway Short Story Prize, and Arc Magazine's Poem of the Year. Her writing has appeared in publications such as Atlantis Women's Studies Journal, B&A New Fiction, West Coast Line, and the anthologies Rock Salt, an anthology of contemporary BC poets, and Against Death, 35 essays on living. By night, she is the producer of Canada's longest running live storytelling show, Vancouver Story Slam. By day, she is a beekeeper and co-owner of CR Apiary in Langley, BC, and she's with us today to read her essay for us. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. What a lovely introduction. It sounds very well written. Thank you for having me on board. I thought I was later in the meeting. I just got zoned out listening to the talking and marveling over the differences between BC regulations and Ontario regulations. We're not required to register out here. And we still get access to, you know, our provincial inspector and all that. It's just best practices out here to register. So do you want me to read this?
Yes, please. Oh, we just lost you.
She's muted. Yeah, I'm mute. I was on mute.
You muted yourself.
You muted, we've lost you.
It's on mute. She just needs to unmute.
There we go.
Someone muted me. Someone said you've been talking too long already, Susan. Do you want me to read this whole essay? It does clock in at about 16 minutes.
Yes, please.
Or just portions, or what? Just tell me what to do.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. All right, grab your tea and your donuts or your cheese or whatever. The cheese sounds lovely, even though I can't have any. Apologies. I apologize for any coughs. I'm getting over coughs, and here on the west coast of BC, it is very rainy here. If you have any snow, keep it there. We'll keep our rain. It's miserable out here right now, by the way. All right. Advice to a new beekeeper. Do not keep bees. Keep cattle or chickens or dogs. Their emotions are recognizable, their ailments familiar. Their speech, though foreign, is in a language we understand. A frame of honeycomb slips from your hands, cracks against the hive, and tumbles to the ground. A dark storm of bees roars up and around you. 100 stings at once is an emergency. 1,000 a death sentence. A hive contains 35,000 to 65,000 bees. Stand still, contrite and breathing, surrounded by a dark hurricane, untouched, waiting. A hive is a galaxy, an ever-turning sphere. The queen lays her eggs 1,000 a day, one per honeycomb cell, spiraling outward from the center of the hive, precise and methodical. Each day she continues without reprieve, spiraling ever outward, forming a brood ball of offspring, the eldest in the middle, ever moving. As the young bees hatch from their cells, chewing through the wax and squeezing out like damp kittens with ruffled fur, a circle of newly emptied cells forms. The queen circles back and continues, one egg per reused cell, working at the heels of her eldest brood as they emerge, spiraling outward, ever outward. Drink cold water before working in your beehives. Time flows in spirals inside honeycomb. An hour in the hives is 3 in linear time, and the sunlight beats down so harshly. Learn the language of bees. There is no lexicon, no dictionary. They speak in song and scent and secrets and dance. The closest similar language is that of a school of fish, or octopi, or trees. Learn the smell of anger, sharp and thin like spilled bleach. Learn the sweet air and low, soothing hum of a balanced colony. Learn to read the comb like hieroglyphs, the smooth cells of a nectar harvest, the patchy pattern of a failing queen, the thick mottled wax stalactites of an overcrowding hive. Learn the language. You cannot speak it, but you can listen. Listen with your body. At the edges of the brood ball is a layer of bee bread. Dry pollen packed tight into cells for feeding the larvae. Worker bees ferry the bread inward to the babies, nurturing the healthy brood and removing the diseased and deformed. From the outer edge of the brood ball, they each walk 1,000 times a day, carrying food, carrying the disease, the radii of a spherical spiral. Do not fear deaths or stings. Both of these happen frequently. Fear fire, drought, dusty parched earth, and scorched wilting flowers. Fear fire, yet carry one with you, waving smoke like fairy dust, like a priest's incense-filled thurible, quietly chanting blessings and calm. Do not fear stings or the possibility of them. Carry in your arms a box housing 50,000 and think nothing of it. Place your bare hand softly on 200 moving bodies at once and know only warmth. Fear tiny mites, the spread of spores and viruses. Watch for twisted wings, spasming bodies, the rotting stench of dying brood. Fear animals with paws and hornets. When a small midnight shadow scurries across your lawn, throw rocks, apples, anything at hand, hiss and growl, set up traps, and hope for the best. Do not talk much about the males, the drones. They are simple-minded and vulnerable. As larvae, their fat torsos ruin your perfect honeycomb. As adults, you notice when they are there or gone, but little else. They are fickle. They wander between hives, eating food stores and sleeping amongst strangers. They serve only one purpose, to breed. After achieving their goal, they die dramatically, explosively, plummeting to earth like proud warriors falling in battle. They are mostly useless and cannot defend themselves. Love their big dark eyes, their thick bodies, the way they cling to you when you hold them, unwilling to leave the warmth of your hand. Forget that your hands are large and clumsy. Move slowly, breathe easily. The scent of held breath is an alarm bell of danger. Breathe, be calm. Some call it a religion, a meditation, poetry. Others call it a science or art. You are here to work, to lift heaviness as the sun beats your back and head into a thick pounding ache, and the light sparks hot, harsh knives, and the sweat denies you. You are here to work, to be worked over, and you are a thick, dumb animal of clumsy meat. Get used to the common questions. Answer them in thoughtful detail or briefly and inappropriately. How many bees do you have? 7. Do you make honey? Well, I tried, but I don't have the right body parts. Do you ever get stung? When a hive is soft, when a hive is warm and growing, lean into it. Breathe the sweet, waxy air in deep and slow. Rest your hands on the soft, moving layers of bodies. Here there is only life and hope and the birthing of ancient religions. The modern mythology is full of romantic falsehoods, that bees recognize their keepers, that they willingly exchange honey for a home and protection, that a spoonful of sugar water left in the yard will actually help them, that honey cures all ailments, that the profits from selling honey will actually balance out your labor, that a box of bees is an easy hobby, that you do this for profits, for honey, for money, and for more money. When a hive outgrows its confining quarters and swarms, the queen and half the bees leaving to form a new colony elsewhere stand in the sunlight and watch. As the bees fly in widening circles, tens of thousands of them, more bees than you have ever seen in flight at once, watch them. When they land and form a clump, I cannot advise you, with your bare hands and loose clothes, to reach your hand out to the humming, undulating mass. The breeze from their wings is small and warm. The inside of the swarm is champagne bubbles, the purring of thousands of kittens. Your skin is surrounded by danger. 100 stings will land you in the hospital. 1,000 will kill you. I cannot advise you to do this, to lift your hand into the smallest of heavens. The smallest unit of measurement is a bee space, the width of a honeycomb cell, the distance between one frame of comb and the next. 2 patches of comb built separately, then expanded to combine, will always meet seamlessly, the hexagon pattern aligning precisely, tiny wax flakes pressed into perfect position. Bees visit 2 million flowers and fly 50,000 miles to make 1 pound of honey. Bees consume 9 pounds of honey to make 1 pound of wax. A single honeybee cannot survive alone, but a colony can build an empire. Harvest comb for wax sparingly, taking only the broken and the discarded and leaving the rest for the bees to reuse. Reimagine linear time. A bee lives for a few weeks or months. Each generation builds comb for larvae that they will never see grown, stores food for siblings they will never meet, prepares the hive for a winter they will never know. Reimagine generations. A bee lives for a few weeks or months, a queen for years. She lays hundreds of thousands of eggs, her children growing and dying as she circles, spirals, methodically reimagine longevity. A bee will create a quarter teaspoon of honey in its entire lifetime. The bee will live a few weeks or months. The honey will remain unspoiled for millennia, perhaps eternity. Consider a new definition of immortality. Wash everything in cold water because heat melts wax into a thick smear that clogs drain pipes. Rinse everything in hot because the remnants of honey flow slow and cold. Your beekeeping suit heavy with sweat, your shirt spattered with honey and wax, your bed sheet thrown over a hive to stave off a blitzkrieg of wasps. Your perfectly polished floors will become speckled with sticky wax, despite the hours you spend scraping them clean with a thumbnail. The dryer filter will grow a fine film of wax. There will be so many things that you never thought you'd have to scrub clean. Your home will smell of summer, sweet, bright, the rising scent of warm honey. A colony can last in perpetuity, each generation bringing in food for its younger siblings, each aging queen laying the egg of her successor. But despite your best efforts, it may die. Of parasites or disease or starvation or pesticides or wasps or bears or cold or poor weather or poor genetics or unknown. Watch the trees and the skies, head cocked sideways like a rabbit, wary of hawks, always looking for the umber clump of a swarm or the sunlight shooting stars of foraging bees. A dead hive sounds like motionless wind. It smells of the dark cool of autumn. Even in stifling summer heat, you will be quietened suddenly by the unexpected silence. You do not need to see. Your outstretched hand recognizes the unmoving air, the musty smell, the cold stillness of a deceased colony. Your friends will misidentify everything bee-like as a honeybee and will turn to you for advice. There are bees in our attic, they will say. Or, there are bees building a nest in the apple tree. Please come relocate them. You arrive with suit on and gear in hand and will find hornets, paper wasps, bumblebees. But you'll take care of them, right? They say. Tell them this story. I phone you to say, come fetch your dog that is attacking my chickens. You arrive with collar and leash and see not your dog, but a coyote or a wolf or a hyena. But you'll take care of it, right? I say. Your friends will misidentify everything, so ask for photos before you leave the house. In the cold months, the bees cluster in a sphere, the queen at the center. As the bees on the outside chill, they burrow inward for warmth. The cluster spirals, a constant rotation of heat and food, the queen at the center like a solar system star. Hold your hand to the side of the hive and imagine the sound of warmth. Picture the smell of a spherical galaxy spiraling in mathematical perfection. Are they alive? Are they dead? Schrodinger's eye. Remember hope. Reconsider your understanding of life. Dead bees still sting. A single bee cannot survive alone. The mother outlives her children again and again. A hive with a failed queen dies slowly, population dwindling, the final brood hatch, a thick wave of fat drones who abandon their home. The queen dies, the colony dies, the Hail Mary drones, single-minded and suicidal, carry their families' genetics to other queens, other colonies. Reconsider your definition of death, of persistence, of survival. When you know the bee's language so well that you smell it in your dreams, compose an answer to that common question. If you're not in it for the honey, then why keep bees? With the expense and the backaches and the deaths and the heaviness of heat and all the stings, why? In the bright midsummer heat, turn your back to the sun and hold a frame of comb to the light. Watch a young bee hatch from its wax cell, turning slowly as it chews its way to freedom, tiny shoulders pressing and struggling, turning slowly, a spinning single star surrounded by a greater galaxy. Stand still, quiet and breathing, surrounded by a warm hurricane, waiting. Compose an answer in a language you understand but cannot speak. Hold your thick, clumsy hands in the shape of new wax in a soft humming song. Measure the distances in bee spaces. Do not use numbers. Breathe out softly, a spiraling galaxy in constant motion. Dance the language of ancient religions.
What made you write that?
Frustration and anger. Oh, how do I put this in without taking up another 16 minutes of me babbling on? New beekeepers who, not all new beekeepers, but people who are so entranced by the beautiful magic of beekeeping that they think beekeeping is you take a box of bees, you put it in the yard, period. Which I think is a huge contributor to the spread of the varroa mite, which, as we all know what that's all about and how huge of a problem that is, especially in the last couple of years. But I think it's enthusiastic beginning beekeepers who don't take the time to actually do the research and learn things and just drop a hive of bees in their yard. This essay is an attempt to explain to them it's a bit more complicated than that. There's a lot of work, a lot of expense, and a whole lot of heartbreak going on. So I just want them to think twice, not necessarily not take up beekeeping, but do the work to learn and do the work to take care of your bees, because I do believe that shoddy beekeeping is a huge contributor to the varroa mite infestation problem we got going on.
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
for
very much.
reading that. It's beautiful.
Most welcome.
We're going to move on to our main speaker, Paul Kelly. Paul has managed the Honeybee Research Center for the past 35 years. His primary role at the center is to manage honeybee colonies for research and teaching purposes. He provides research support for hive health science, training for students and beekeepers, coordinates and teaches beekeeping courses, conducts facility tours for the general public, and hasn't stopped talking about bees since his first apiculture course in 1980. On June 12th, 2022, Paul was inducted into the Ontario Agriculture Hall of Fame, and we are very pleased to have him here tonight. I would have sent it.
But thank you very much, Susan. That was wonderful reading. I'd love to be able to read that myself at some time. That was really good. And Marion spoke before. I'm not sure whether you can hear me or not, but it was a great update for where we're at in the season. And I'd like to congratulate all of you on that, the production of your calendar there. It's just a wonderful resource, and it's beautiful too. Like we're hoping to have those for our course participants at the university as well. So we'll have to figure that out there. I'm going to talk tonight about, when we're set here, about regional self-sufficiency in Ontario. And if possible, I'll do the advance the slides here. What? Think we're good? All right. I was asked to do a presentation at the Michigan State Beekeepers Association last March, and it was the third time we tried to set this trip up down there. The first time was when COVID hit. You remember middle of March, how everything changed for us there? Well, I was to present on a Saturday. They called the meeting off on the Friday. So it was like big meeting with 600 people there, everything organized for it. And they just shut it down. So fortunately, I was able to get down there this past spring and I did this presentation. I wanted to do this to show them what we are doing here in Ontario that I think is different than what they do for beekeeping there in the state. They have access to bees from the southern US. They don't have the same kinds of pressures that we have to be self-sufficient because they can just buy more bees whenever they want them, and that's the way they do it. But I think all of us really want to be successful and to be self-sufficient in a way. Here in Ontario, we were forced into that. So I think it's been a good thing for us, but it hasn't gone without some problems along the way. Oops, hope this moves forward. And it's not.
You have to click on slideshow and present in order to.
Stop sharing. I'll go back up. Yeah, you have to be on the other screen and then just click the mouse button. There you go.
Look here and you'll see the current slide.
The people online,
I think it's advancing.
is it? Okay,
Look at my phone to confirm that.
okay.
Yeah, so the idiosyncrasies of this room, which I don't know, are putting the presentation on the smaller screen. You're just gonna have to focus on the screen.
Yeah, okay. You guys can see this one, all right? Not so bad. Right, I'll just shift over here then. And we'll now what's that?
You do. There you go.
So I got into beekeeping back in 1980, and I took an apiculture course at the University of Guelph. This course, we now have 800 students a year. So, but it's been going on since as far as I know, the 1800s. Our program started up in 1894, and the Ontario Agricultural College was set up at that point, and beekeeping was part of that right from the very beginning. So anyhow, I took this apiculture course and I just got fascinated with bees, and I quit school. So that's kind of a short story, isn't it? I did that to go out to the Peace River in northern Alberta to work for a beekeeper full time. And I really wanted to see if this is what my calling was. And I just loved it. I worked with a fellow that had 3,000 hives of bees. And I'd like to say we did everything 3,000 times. So we kind of, learned through repetition how to get better at this. Managing that number of colonies, you have to learn to be very efficient with your time. And every movement in the bee yard is it's almost like a dance. Every step you take counts, and every action you do contributes to being able to accomplish a lot in a single day. We work 80-hour weeks for May and June. So you got to be young, you got to be fit, strong, and really love what you're doing to work 80-hour weeks. So we would start in the morning, just loading up the truck, get ready to go, work all day, and then take a break. And in the evening, get right back out there. And all 3,000 hives got moved in the evenings there. But we had the northern lights to be working under. You can lie on the warm hood of a truck in between the stops there. The thousands of things kept you warm, but it was just a great experience for me. And I went back to school and finished up a degree and studied apiculture there. So that getting in there at the beginning of my career was kind of the end of an era for beekeeping in Western Canada. My boss drove down to California. He had a specially made truck. It was only used for one purpose. That was for transporting packaged bees back up from California. And he would bring in about 6,000 packaged bees for himself and for neighboring beekeepers. He would hire half the town to get those bees. There wasn't a very big town, but to get those bees established in the colonies. And they had a system there where they started every year with packaged bees, and you manage them and you baby them, and you have very uniform colonies because they all start out exactly the same with a new queen. They get put into a hive box that's set up so everything is the right frame for the right location there. And it's just, you put them in and watch them go. So it was a very good system. But what that meant was to do this at the end of the year, every single hive was killed with cyanide. Every bee. There wasn't a beekeeper in Western Canada owned a bee by the end of September. So it's kind of hard to believe that was done and that was acceptable management practices, and that people would even buy honey. Thinking about it now, it seems kind of unbelievable that that's how bees are managed, but it was very popular method, and some beekeepers would love to go back to that because things were simple. So here is a package of bees. Nope. There's the package bees. 3 pounds of bees in a box, and there's a can in there with sugar syrup in it, with a hole in the bottom covered with a gauze bees can drink through. And the queen would hang in a cage in there, no candy in the cage, just no attendants, just the queen hanging in there. That queen didn't come with those bees, it wasn't from those bees. But because she traveled with them, that was their introduction period. So to put those into a hive, you took out frames, and one crew would go around all the yards taking out 4 frames out of the middle of the box. And then my boss and 1 or 2 other trusted people would shake the bees out, because it's actually hard to shake bees out of a round hole like that and get them all out of the box. So there's a real, like, we spent hours talking about tap, 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 drop, drop, like all the little things that work together to get all those bees out of the box. But then he would pour the remaining syrup out of the can into the queen cage, fill it up with syrup. So she's swimming in syrup. And you pull the screen off, pour the queen in, and she's covered in syrup. She's already more or less accepted. But that was her gentle introduction into the hive. And it worked really well. The queens were very well accepted. The bees could build up. You're doing this in early April, right when they're starting to get pollen from some of the early pollen sources there. Lots of pollen available, so the colonies could grow pretty quickly, even though there's still lots of cool weather at that point. But those colonies would build up, and then they could be managed in a very efficient method because everything is so uniform and it's all on the upswing. And your colonies, even when you're establishing a new methods like that, if things are growing, they're not declining and they're not going sideways on you. So it's it does make beekeeping simpler. So then we had the border closure. I don't have a picture of that particular border closure. So this is it's a little bit more recent here. And it was just about as dramatic as this situation here when the border closed to bees from the US. Canada decided to stop importing bees because Africanized bees were moving into the US. Bromites were coming in, other problems were coming in, and we just didn't want those problems here. And so we shut the border down. Because that's federally regulated, it means it's right across Canada. So beekeepers in different provinces may have different opinions on this matter, but it has to be the same right across the country. So the border was shut down. It didn't affect us as much here, and I'll get into a little bit more about that. But it drastically affected the beekeepers in Western Canada that were reliant on this system. Generations of beekeepers knew generations of bee suppliers in the US. And they all look forward to getting together and working up these packages and bringing them up here. And the fellow that I worked for went out of business because of the border closure. He killed his bees that fall, even after the border was closed. He thought, we have to be able to salvage this and change it. And that didn't happen. He lost his business. So it was very dramatic for beekeepers in Western Canada. Here in Ontario, let's move on to a different picture, right? That one's not good memories for me either. But here in Ontario, we did rely on bees from the US too. The beekeepers in Eastern Canada would purchase queens from and package bees from the Georgia, Florida, Alabama, states like that. So in the West, the bees came from California, Texas, places like that. In the East, they came from straight south of us. But beekeepers that lost hives through the winter didn't make splits, didn't make up their losses that way. They bought package bees to reestablish their colonies. They didn't raise queens, even if they were making splits. They bought queens from the southern United States. We had a pipeline going back and forth, and there was no need to really do these kinds of things. And living in a northern climate, it's less of a viable business raising queen bees because we have a much shorter season. And so our costs are a lot higher in producing things. So it did affect us here too. And there was no infrastructure or skill set or ability really to be able to be self-sufficient at that point. So this is kind of, in a way, the time frame of my career, start to where we are right now, and just think about what we have developed here in the province to be able to be more self-sufficient. We're still not entirely self-sufficient, but I'm going to go through some of the things that we've learned over time. And a lot of this would have been new for the Michigan Beekeepers group that I was speaking with, but it's not news to you. But maybe you've never thought of putting it all together or thinking about that historical context that it's coming from. So what we needed to do to become self-sufficient, first of all, reduce our losses. If we don't lose bees, we don't need to replace them. So a lot has gone into learning how to keep our bees healthy and productive. Virtually nobody knew how to raise queen bees. I think there was a few beekeepers in the province that knew how to raise queen bees, but hardly any. So we needed to start from scratch, building that knowledge. And even the people that teach beekeeping didn't have a lot of experience with doing that either. So that had to be built up from the ground up. We had to look at ways of replacing our losses by methods of splitting colonies, overwintering nukes, all these things that we think of now that just weren't done at all at that point. So a big change was going from package bees to nucleus colonies. And there's obvious reasons why we use nucleus colonies, but we just can't produce surpluses of bees early in the year. In the southern states, their spring is so much earlier. The hives are built up. They're kind of at our late June stage when the nukes are coming, or the package bees are being collected there, where you can take harvest bees without, and the brood can still survive with the remaining bees that are there. But that doesn't work for us. So a nucleus colony really was the answer there, making up a split, babysitting and selling that split to other beekeepers. So that's a whole industry that's developed. And I feel that anybody that's in the nuke production business, that you have to learn to be a good beekeeper if you're going to sell surplus bees. You need to be able to make up for your own losses. You need to be able to sell extra colonies and still keep your colony numbers going. So you have to be able to manage your hives effectively and be self-sufficient within your own beekeeping operation to do that. And I encourage people even with, 10, 12 hives to be thinking about that too. There's always a demand for nucleus colonies within your organization or neighbors and so on. We've produced, I think it's 8 or 10 new videos over the last 6 months. One of those is on making nukes for sale. So it just shows a bit of what goes into that. 3, this is off topic, but 4 of them are on mite controls. We've covered Apivar, Formic Pro, oxalic, trickle method, and then cultural controls. Ways that we can manage our bees to limit mite reproductive capacity. And then one on wintering bees, on specifically wintering colonies of single brood chambers. That's another entire transformation that's happened in our industry. There was like 5% of the beekeepers that had hives, single brood chamber hives historically. Now we're at about 70% of the province where the beekeepers have their hives in single brood chamber hives. So there's a video on that topic. And then we've done one, we just finished one this morning. What was it on? You should know since it was this morning. Uniting colonies from spring, summer, and fall uniting. That's just one that we just hadn't got to. And if anybody has ideas, we've got 80 videos out there, so we're running out of ideas. If you have ideas and you're familiar with what we have, and there's gaps in there, please let us know because we'd like to. Okay, where am I at here? So those are the few ways of a basket full of techniques to be able to come up with the self-sufficiency. So we started working together on this. And when I was a university student, there was one person that was a faculty member at the university, taught apiculture. He was also the provincial apiarist, so he worked for the Ontario government, and he was the secretary of the Ontario Beekeepers Association. One guy. How'd you like all those jobs, Ralph? So as you can see, historically, those organizations were really tied together. And I think that's been one of the strengths of our industry here, is that we have 3 very effective groups working together and a whole host of local associations, so that information getting out to people, we have the channels there to be able to do that. Some other jurisdictions don't have that kind of support. So that's, I think, helped a lot.
Was that Doug McCrory?
No, it was prior to Doug McCrory, actually. When he got that job, it became a full-time job. And then we started years ago, we were doing a bee breeding project, breeding bees for resistance to trachea mites at the University of Guelph. That was such a popular program that the beekeepers wanted it to continue. And so they established the tech transfer program to continue that breeding program. So it kind of grew out of the work that we were doing there. And it's been wildly successful, as you all know. It's been copied throughout North America. So reducing losses, we needed to get better at wintering colonies. This is just one method. This is the method that we use here. These wraps were available when I started at work at the university. I bought a bunch from Man Lake, and then they quit making them. And so people would come, I demonstrate how we wrap our bees, and they say, but you can't buy them. So that was pretty lame. I got very frustrated with that. And I had a few false starts with people that got interested in producing them. And then our local association out in the bee area one day when I said this is what we do, but you can't. The germ started there, and the local association picked up on the idea. A bunch of us worked together on making sure they were going to be produced the way we wanted them. And Diane Kraut from the Wellington County Beekeepers Association really picked that up and took it. Jim Coneybear helped out a lot with selling them, making them available to people. All the proceeds go to the tech transfer program, so it's a great initiative. They've sold somewhere in the neighborhood of 70,000 of those wraps now. And then we started over again with new boxes, which you'll see again in a bit. But so anyhow, that's how we wrap our colonies, but there's been a lot of study and testing of different methods of wintering, including indoor overwintering. And in Western Canada, they've gone to indoor wintering or super insulated groups of 4 colonies wrapped together. So they've come up with ways of keeping them. Beekeepers up in the Peace River area where I started, a lot of them move their bees down to the southern British Columbia, to the Annapolis Valley, the Okanagan Valley, and other areas in southern BC. So all of those are methods that needed to be learned to be able to keep bees going through the winter. Indoor wintering, we've been doing this at our facility for over 25 years. And when we started doing this, there was really not a lot of interest here in Ontario in picking this up because it was thought to be more useful in colder climates. But with higher losses that we've been seeing over winters for the last, since 2007, there's more and more interest in wintering bees indoors. And I caution people against doing this, kind of like what Susan was talking earlier, like with bees, you got to think about this. Is this really for you? Because you mentioned Doug McCrory a little earlier. He lost his entire beekeeping business because his bees were wintered indoors. He lost 4,000 beehives, not a bee alive at the end of that. He was in Florida, his equipment failed in the building and they overheat. When you put them inside, each hive, every hive generates 15 watts of heat. And when you put 4,000 in a room, that's every 100 is a 1,500 watt heater running full time. And so you got to be able to cool that room. You have to have massive capability to move air, to be able to use outside air to cool the room, or even refrigeration in some cases. So if you're going to be doing this, you have to do it right, or you're going to lose your bees. One of our graduate students living in the Ottawa area decided to do this on a small scale, and he was going to do it manually, like opening vents, closing them, to be able to help control the temperature. It was getting too cold in the room, so he closed the vents and then it got warm. And it spirals out of control. As it's too warm, they get more active, which produces heat, which makes them warmer, which makes them more active, which produces more heat. And it doesn't take much over their normal brood temperature for them to perish. So, but it can work really well. We winter about 1/3 of our hives indoors last year. Those were the weakest hives that we had. So we rate the strength of every hive in the fall, number of frames of bees, and anything less than 5, we winter indoors. You can't save all of them for sure, but of those bees that we moved in that were our weakest hives, we only lost 5%. So we've lost 10% outdoors with our better hives. So you can see how beneficial it can be. We use red light inside because bees can't see red, and we can see what we're doing. So it works really well. Just a red headlamp. So more self-sufficiency, learning how to reduce our losses so we don't have to split hives, so we don't have to get queens and so on. So studies on mite treatments, different kinds, synthetic, organic. We've been working a lot on that over the years at the university, and the tech transfer program has as well. We have had some success with essential plant oils. We've developed a product with thymol that's 95% effective, oregano that's 95% effective. There are other thymol products on the market, but I'd like to think ours is better. We need to do some comparisons there, but we're certainly very effective.
Commercial? Are they just research at this stage?
That is our problem, getting them commercialized. We're not great at that. We've been working a bit with the OBA on trying to get these commercialized. I've had a couple false starts with international businesses that specialize in this kind of thing. And one with a company in France fell through, just starting with another company now to see if we can get it moving forward. It's really frustrating to have something that's so benign and so effective. And, you know, at least when we produce it ourselves, it's cheap too. When we go to buy it from a company, it's not gonna be cheap. But not be able to provide that is very frustrating.
This is something that beekeepers can make for themselves and you can sort of educate how to do it. It's too
We
complicated.
can't, we're not allowed to do that. Like, we can't recommend anything that's not registered, even if it's a natural material. And there's a lot of work that went into getting the right formulation and the right delivery system. But anything we do at the university, I insist that we do preliminary trials before we commit to anything bigger. Because we can learn so much in those preliminary trials. And, you know, you rule out stuff that's just not gonna work. Think it's gonna work, but it doesn't. So my boss wanted to make tacos out of our thymol powder and roll them up in newspaper like a taco and put it in the hive. Because this method had been used for delivering oxytetracycline in Mexico effectively. But bees don't really like the smell of thymol. And so they turn the taco into a sausage. They propolize it and nothing gets in it. So in the space of a week, we went from tacos to sandwiches to open face sandwich and bingo. We got it in a week with one hive. And then we went on to do larger trials, and we've done many, many trials with that since then. And that delivery method is quite simple. When it gets commercialized, I'm hoping it comes a little packet, paper packet. You just peel the cover off and have it delivered there, pre-measured, pre-mixed. And that's where I'm hoping it'll go. But, with Nosema, we've been working on that a lot. We did a study back in 2007 and 8 looking at colony mortality. We tracked 413 colonies across the province. We measured everything we possibly could think of with those 413 colonies. And then we compared that to the mortality. And in doing that, we're able to rate all our problems in order of priority. And our research has been based on that ever since. So Varroa, obviously number 1. But Nosema comes in about number 3. And it doesn't really cause the mortality so much, but it does slow build up in the spring and then consequently honey production and so on. But we've been working on pre and probiotics, and we've went through lab trials, small scale field trials, large scale field trials. We found 2 products that are very effective at reducing the Nosema level in colonies and also increasing bees' longevity to the point where the bees actually live longer than the control bees. So the control bees without Nosema, the bees that are fed that actually live longer. So we know how important gut health is for bees, not just for Nosema, but for their own longevity. And we got into breeding bees for Varroa resistance. We learned grooming behavior is very important. People have been working for years on hygienic behavior, but we found that grooming behavior is more important than hygienic behavior in the studies that we've done. So to test grooming behavior, we take a bee, we put it in a petri dish, we take a mite, we put it on the bee back, we cover it up with saran wrap, and then we score the fight. So it's like scoring a boxing match. There's points for how many legs they use, how long do they do this grooming behavior, are they successful at getting the mite off, and do they turn around and bite it when they're done? So they get points for all these things. And we've shown a really strong correlation between good grooming behavior and low Varroa growth rate. Tough for beekeepers to do. So what we're now doing is doing a spring mite count, doing a late summer mite count, the difference is the growth rate. And by measuring that growth rate, we're going to capture anything that contributes to it, whether it's grooming behavior, hygienic behavior, anything else that we might not even be thinking of, we can capture it with just that simple measure that beekeepers can do on their own. In the meantime, we're doing all the research in the background, looking at why all this is working. And so it means infesting a lot of bees with mites. And one of the people that I think is on the room here, Luke Peters, helped us out accessing some mites at the Ontario Science Center for a research project. So thank you, Luke, if you're out there. But those we ended up putting on bees inside queen cages and then introducing mites to them and then putting them in an incubator at brood temperature. So we needed to measure how much food they're consuming, how much water is being consumed, how long they were living. And then when they're just starting to die, we remove them so that we can do the DNA testing. We can't do it when the bee's dead. The DNA degrades really quickly, so we have to use bees that are almost there. So to do that, you have to figure out a method of doing all this. And that was one case where we didn't do enough preliminary testing, but we got it over time. So that's some fairly recent work that we've been doing. So reducing losses again, we've gone to using single brood chambers, as I mentioned, and I really think there's a lot of advantages to managing bees that way. First of all, it's simpler. You got one box with 10 frames in it. You're looking for a queen, she's there. It's not maybe she's here, maybe she's there. You don't find her here, maybe you'll find her over there. And plus, it's twice the number of frames to go through. Same thing for any kind of inspection in the hive. Second brood chamber is usually half full of honey at least. So it's harder to handle the frames and harder to look through things. But you can see some more advantages there. Mite treatments work better, or easier to apply. Easier to pick up the hives and move them when you want to from place to place. I did discover that a downside of that is they're easier to steal too. Because with a double brood chamber hive, it takes 2 bad beekeepers. And really, what's the likelihood of that? Likelihood of 1 bad beekeeper all by himself with nobody watching him, that's a little higher. We had somebody come into our yard in April, right in the backyard at work. And I was out to ski all day, came back and everything looked fine. And then I noticed one wrap was lying on its side, the Wellington County winter wrap. So it's kind of a rigid thing and it had fallen over, it was on its side. There's no hive there. And I like our backyard to look perfect going into winter. So there's a hive in every location. We make it work that way. So it makes us look like good beekeepers. But so there was a hive there. What, did a student do something? What's going on? I went back in the yard and I looked at that hive. Sure enough, the hive was gone. But the lid was there on the ground. The brick holding the lid there was on the ground. The wrap was on its side. And then I turned around, I looked at another hive right beside it. And peering in the upper entrance hole of the wrap, there was no hive inside. So they had stolen the hive, put the wrap back in place, put the lid on, put the brick on, and filled up their pickup truck because it was 5. And drove away and nobody was the wiser. So I actually have to give the guy a bit of credit. It's gonna be gone, right? Maybe, I don't know. So cons with singles, you have to feed very rapidly after you harvest the fall honey for sure. Because there may not be much honey in the brood chamber. And we've had a few years where we've seen that this year included. There was very little in our brood chambers late summer. Our area got so dry and mid-July to mid-August that there's just nothing there. There was still honey in the honey supers. So if we'd taken it all off, our bees would have starved within 2 days. So we always make sure to leave some honey on when we harvest the summer honey, like a half box full of honey or something like that. And then when we take all that off and whatever's left, take it off in the fall, we feed immediately. So that's one difference with doubles.
They swarm more readily in the spring with less air than the singles, or you just get supers on them
No,
fast?
you manage the space a little bit differently. Like for the first super you add, you're gonna add that a bit earlier too. And we do have, I think it's 2 videos now on managing singles, just to compare some of the differences there. But I don't find it significantly different, but we do swarm management, like adding supers at the right time. And that first super is really there, or 2, is really there to provide space for expanding population, more so than honey early in the year. Later on, yeah, honey, but it'll help suppress that impulse of swarming. We do other things too, but yeah, Tom.
Quick question on the singles ball. When I run singles, I run singles always, like there's never a second box on there, right?
Right.
I know some beekeepers who run singles early in the year when they want to expand, they'll put another brood box on top. And as the colony expands, do that as they're split, pull it off.
Yeah.
Do you do that method at all, or?
Not intentionally. We do it, yes, but that will be if there's a problem with a hive this year. Say for example, laying worker colony, lots of bees, laying worker. I'm not going to fix it. I just add it on to another hive. So it gets a double, like united with newspaper and so on. But next year that gets split off. So the goal is to have them all singles, but some are temporarily doubles. But I can see why some people would add a second brood chamber to be able to split that later. When we make up splits, you're handling frames. When they make up splits, they're handling boxes. Way to do it that way. And you have more to work with. So I can see an advantage. I don't do it, but I know why people do it.
When you're putting the supers on the spring to get in the room.
Yeah.
Are you putting the excluder on right away? Or?
Yeah. Yeah. And we store our supers wet. So there's no issue with that queen excluder. And don't leave anybody when they call it a honey excluder. It is not like, I think they're the best tool ever developed for beekeepers. They just allow you to be in total control of what's going on, keeps it simple. I think the worst advice you could give to a new beekeeper is to not use a queen excluder. And I've been at meetings where I sat down and somebody got up and recommended that to everybody in the room. What are they going to do with those things? How do you manage them when you get brood 3 boxes? We're encouraging people to look through their colonies on a regular basis. Expect them. If they got this giant mass of stuff all mixed together, it's really difficult to work with. So I have strong opinions about some things, but I guess I'm allowed. I was telling Mel on the way here, when I first started, way back when, we'd go to these local meetings and there'd be 7 older European men at every meeting. And they all knew everything about bees, and their job was to make sure I knew nothing. And it's just so much better to be at this end of my career, at a diverse group like this, and it's the vibrancy we have there. So we'll get into a bit more about queen rearing and bee breeding. We had a student 2 summers ago who was a fantastic macro photographer. And that's one of his pictures of a queen bee there. So what we've done here is we've encouraged queen rearing for beekeepers to do for their own beekeeping operations, for sales in their area, which I think is a really effective way of dealing with things. And there's some specialization involved in queen rearing. I don't recommend everybody get into queen rearing. I do recommend that we all support the people that do get into it. Now, it's a significant effort for them to do that in education and resources. It's tough for that to be a profitable business. So if you want to learn why a queen might cost you $50, take a queen rearing course, and you'll be quite happy to pay $50 for a queen. It's not been really possible for us to develop an industry where we're exporting large numbers of queens. I don't, like, we just don't have even that mindset, like, some other places do, where everything's gotta be done in tens of thousands. We just don't have that same kind of mindset, which makes us, I think, a bit more inclined to be thinking of self-sufficiency. But when you're rearing queens, we've learned that you need to be able to rear them well. And there's a lot that goes into rearing good quality queens. So there's the breeding side of it, but right now we're talking about the physiology of the queens, how well built they are. And for them to be well built, you need to start with really young larvae. Larvae are bipotent for 3 days. So day 1 is when like the eggs laid on day 1. On day 3, they emerge or they hatch as a larva. And so that day and the next day and the day after that, they can become a queen if they're fed royal jelly. All larvae get royal jelly day 1. Drones, queens, workers, they all get royal jelly. After that, day 2, if they're going to be a worker, they get worker jelly. They get cut off the royal jelly. So if you transfer a larva that's 3 days old, she's already partly developed towards becoming a worker. And then she changes directions and she's going to become a queen. So just the age of larvae you choose is going to help determine the quality of the queen. If we make a split, one of my least favorite phrases is a walk-away split. If we make a split and we let them raise their own hive, first of all, we're weakening the hive, putting them into a queen rearing position. It's not a natural position, even though we think that that's natural for bees to raise their own queen. It's natural for them to supersede a queen. You're putting them into an emergency situation. The only time that would happen is if a tree falls over or a bear destroys a hive. They're not really, they haven't really evolved to deal with that well. So when you put a colony in a situation where they're in emergency queen rearing, you've got less bees in there, less resources. They pick larvae that are 1, 2, and 3 days into their development. Which one's going to emerge first?
3 days.
The 3-day one. So you're automatically getting the worst queen possible when you do that. And those queens, 35% of them need to be superseded the same summer. So they got to go through another whole cycle. It takes a month to get a laying queen the first time. And then they got to go through that and supersede that queen and replace her. So it will work. You'll get a queen in many cases, but it's not going to be a good queen. And so we encourage people to buy queens from local people. And I'll get into this bit, but we really encourage people to buy queen cells too. So that's a picture of what our cells look like. They're nice and big. And I never show a picture that's not 100% on the graph there. So, but it's not that happens 100% of the time. But that's kind of our goal when we're raising queens. If you get a really good acceptance and a good take, you know you're doing things in a way that are best for the bees. So when you're raising queens, every single step counts. The grafting, we've already talked about the age of grafting, but also how you handle them so that you're not injuring them, damaging them. How you prepare the colonies that are going to raise the queens. How you introduce those queen cells and handle them. Are you chucking them around like cordwood, or are you handling them carefully, keeping them the right temperature, getting them in a timely manner? All things that improve success. Then they got to fly out and mate. So you don't want to be raising them too early in the year when you don't have enough drones. That's the temptation for people raising queens, because that's when people want to buy them. So you have to get your timing right on. Introducing once those queens are mated and they go to beekeepers, how do you ship them, keep them alive? How do you handle them in between? All these are things that we needed to learn to be able to do this here. And many of them are common knowledge in the room here now. When we're doing this, it's important that we quantify things as we're moving along. so that we know whether we're making progress or not. So people that teach management skills, I always say, make goals, but make them measurable goals and make them achievable goals too. So those are things we can keep in mind when we're managing our hives as well. This is the method that we use for cell builders. It's called the cloak board method. And we shake every bee out of the hive to do this. The reason for that is we need to inspect every frame for cells that the queens might, or the bees might be raising themselves. If those queens are a little bit older than our queens, then they're going to emerge and destroy our cells, and we lose everything. So it's really important that we don't miss one. And I have lots of people to work with that work at really, I'm in a really great position that way. Tons of volunteers, lots of students to work with. People come from all over the world to work with us and learn. So I have too many people all the time. So, but I take that as a challenge because that's more people that can learn and can help us grow. And it's worked out taking that on. But so what we do here is the person on the right there, standing up at that ladder there, that's a new employee. So I shake the bees off, I pass the frame to them. We've since added a runner in between, another person just to move frames back and forth. And so that inexperienced beekeeper is looking for cells. And then they pass them to the person that's sitting down there. Although now everybody in the right is sitting down, that person's standing up. Little changes every year. But that second person is an experienced beekeeper that really knows how to look for queen cells. And if they find a cell on the second check, we fire the first employee. We make a little ceremony on it. They hang their head and shake. And then they're hardly happy. But just by having a little bit of fun like that, it does put the pressure on people, and they've got to perform. And we didn't miss one queen cell this year. Each of our cell builders raised 440 queens. So we averaged 40 out of 45 through the whole summer. And for 3 cell builders, there was only a difference of 4 queen cells. Start to finish at the end of the year. Very consistent this year. So that's thanks to the crew that we're doing such a great job. When you're raising queens, you basically want too much of everything. You want so many resources there. You might think you're giving them enough, and that's how I first started off. I don't want to waste too many bees here. I want to be able to make them split with that hive. And I don't want it but what we start our cell builders out with are the 2 of the strongest hives that we have. We move them in, and we pick out the very strongest hives, and then we put 2 of them together. And then we add the bees from a 3rd hive. Like that's how many bees we're talking about. And then we feed them constantly real pollen, like pollen mixed with sugar syrup. So there's nothing artificial about that. It's very good nutrition for them. We even mix pollen so that we're making sure it's not pollen from just one time in the season. So they get real diversity of pollen there. And we have tested our pollen too for pesticide resistance too. Looking at this, I don't do that all the time. But so that's just making sure we have an abundance of everything. Through the summer, we add frames of caproot come from other colonies just to keep everything up. We want lots of young bees. So there's the pollen that we collect, and I'd like to brag about this, not me personally, but the process of collecting pollen was invented at my workplace. And the original pollen trap is called the OAC pollen trap, Ontario Agricultural College pollen trap. We've since made an improvement on that and shared those designs pretty freely. So a number of beekeeping businesses are selling, they're calling it their own names, but you know, the Dancing Bee sells our newer pollen trap design. When we add into the cell builds, we add a frame of pollen. And in the spring of the year, this is kind of easy to find. And this is pollen frame from mid-May. I thought it was a beautiful pollen frame. But look at all the different colors. That's the time of year when chestnut was just starting to come in. And so you can see some red pollen there from chestnut trees. So every frame gets a pollen, every colony gets a pollen frame once a week, right next to the cells that we're raising. So the nurse bees just have to turn around. And maybe we make it really, really easy for them. We've talked about the bipotent larva and the 3-day thing, but can you all see eggs from there? Almost. So you can see eggs right there. This is a black plastic foundation, and the eggs just go on. They're the easy ones to find eggs on. But right next to that over here is the little wee C-shaped larva, the age that we're grafting. And there's, you can see they're sitting in a bed of royal jellies. The colony is in good condition. Breeder colony is in good condition there. This is our grafting setup. I use a Chinese grafting tool. It has a flexible tongue for pushing in and lifting the larva up. And I use, you can sort of see it in the picture there, but a compound microscope. So vision is really key when you're doing this grafting. And I'd rather not be struggling to see with that compound microscope. I could see everything. I could see the individual segments of the bee, of the larva. I can see them breathing, and I could even see them smile when they know they're going to become a queen. Boss Ernesto Guzman's a scientist, so he can't lie like that, but I can. So that's that grafting process is important. There you can see the magnification. We keep everything moist at every stage there, so they don't desiccate. That's more important than temperature. And then every week at day 7, we rebuild the cell builder, check on the previous week's graft, put it in a new graft. And so those are 7-day-old cells there. Then we keep them in an incubator. That's $1,000 machine, but it does work really well. This is a $20 machine. It works very well. So we're trying to encourage people to use queen cells. Beekeepers can produce them earlier in the year. They're less expensive. They're actually quite easy to handle and introduce, and the acceptance rate on them is really high. But people like myself and commercial beekeepers that make nuke cell use these all the time in their hive. But there's no reason why other people can't be using it too. So this incubator is just a small cooler with a standard hot water bottle, rubber hot water bottle with hot tap water. We were just run the tap, so it's going to be. Most people have their temperature set pretty similar. And then we put that in the bottom. And we did experiments. We had a student from Niagara College that needed a project. This is what I gave them. So we worked together on it. And the blue device you see there is a thermometer that we can read from our cell phone. So you don't have to open and close to check on the temperature. And in 15 minutes, it comes up to brood temperature. It'll stay that temperature for 5 hours. So it's a really cheap and effective way. So when I sell nukes to beekeepers, I have queen cells available. So somebody comes to buy a nuke from me, they might also want to split a hive at home. So they pick up a queen cell, $20. I charge more than anybody else, and I'm not ashamed of that. But I'm selling 1 or 2 at a time. My buddies are selling thousands at a time. So but the beekeeper comes with their own incubator. But I have to be honest, I almost never see anybody show up in that same setup. And I really wish that they would use that because it's tested. And so anyhow, I got to work on that. So in early part of the year, queen cells are what we use before we have mated queens. So if we're going to split hives, do that and then introduce queen cells at that time of year. Later on, we'll have mated queens, but we can use those queen cells early on. This is a method I use in my own yards. This is a box here that's divided into two. So there's a partition down here. So there's a queen over here and 5 frames. There's a queen over there and there's 5 frames. And they're sharing the same honey suit. So 2 hives share boxes. There's kind of a process to go through to get to there. But when I overwinter them, the supers are off. They overwinter just as well as a single brood chamber hive. And then in the spring, I can sell a nuke out of that one, a nuke out of that one, put a queen cell in each, and then go on to produce a honey crop. So you can see the economics are pretty darn good with that. So things like that, and like that's what we do, but other beekeepers have developed lots of other methods of overwintering nukes, of making up splits. So the whole industry now is full of people that are building bee hives. And for me, that's the most rewarding part of beekeeping, is watching them grow. It's like planting a seed and watching them come up. I really enjoy that part. Later on in the year, we get into mating queens, but many beekeepers don't need this side of things at all. If you make up a split and you introduce a mated queen you bought, great. If you want to raise your own queens for your own splits, you just put them into splits. You don't need a mating. But if you're going to sell mated queens to other beekeepers, then yeah, these are important. But for a lot of people, they're a step that you can just entirely skip. We've gone from using little styrofoam mini nukes to using these medium depth boxes that are divided into 4. They're a little bit more robust. They're still pretty small enough to be easy to handle and not take a lot of resources. And we can sometimes have success overwintering them, but there's more work on that. So to make up those mini nukes, we go out and collect bees. We find queens in the colonies. We set those queens aside. We take 5 brood frames from each hive, and we shake bees off 5 brood frames per hive. Every frame of bees we shake is enough bees for 1 nuke. So it's really easy to do the math, know how many nukes you want to make up based on how many queen cells you have, and then go to the yard and collect that number of bees. In fact, it's actually a little bit extra bees, but that's better than being the other way around. So we shake those bees into those screen boxes. We take them back. We line up our nukes all upside down like that, and the bottoms open up. The frames have no bottom board. There's no comb in the frame. So there's just a strip of foundation in the frame, and there's no bottom bar in the frame. So when you flip them upside down, it's a wide open box. So we open those up like that. We bang the screen box down. We take a measuring scoop and scoop up 1.5 cups of bees, and then we plop them in there. And so they're scooping them up there. They're plopping them in. Oops. Anyhow, once those are in, we then pour sugar syrup into a little trough in there, pop a queen cell in, close the lid up, move them out to the location they're going to be, and then we leave them there till very early the next morning and open up the entrance. And then the bees gradually fly out, orient to their new location, and they'll stick around that way. If we just put them out in the middle of the afternoon, open them wide up, they'd all be blasting out, get lost, and not know where home is. But one key to this system is that we use a little piece of queen pheromone strip in each of these nukes. Because those nukes don't have a queen, they don't have any brood, they don't have any comb, they don't have any honey. They got no reason to stick around. But if we put that pheromone in there, that'll hold them until they build comb, queen emerges, and then they go on to have brood. So it really helps a lot. That's all.
With the mini mating nukes, what do you do with that drawn comb at the end of the season? 'Cause I notice each season you start with no drawn comb.
We have a melter, it's a heat chest, and I built a rack in that to be able to What am I stepping on?
Sorry.
I don't want to look at it. Damage anything or trip. So when the brood all hatches out of them at the end, we've taken the queen cells out, we let the brood hatch out, we shake the bees out. Often in the fall, they just disintegrate anyway. They just peter out after we've taken the last queen out. But then we put those frames into this heat chest, just let the comb melt out, put a new strip of foundation in.
And why, is there a reason why you just wouldn't overwinter that comb and use it for your minis the following year?
You don't have the space to dump bees in, for one. You have storage issues with wax moth and so on, and the wax moth wreck the boxes too. And it gives you a nice clean start every year. At first I wondered about that too, but I had heard of some beekeepers in New Zealand doing it this way, and I tried that, and I really like it because you get nice fresh comb every year. There's no storage issue, and within a matter of several days, they've got the comb built. It's not a lot of comb to build. It's kind of neat to watch this comb building process too. There's a screen on the bottom of the hive, and there's all kinds of wax flakes that fall through that, and you can see them on the bottom hive. They're wax flakes flying everywhere. They're in such a wax production mode. All right, then we go on to mark and clip the queens and sell those to other beekeepers. This is just another method that we use, these 4-way nukes, looking down from the top. There's partitions that crisscross it. So when you take the lid off, you've opened up 4 hives, which is really handy because you can work on one, work on another, switch a frame of brood here, there, and have good success with them.
And they don't get upset with each other. That you've opened.
No, they go down, they smoke them a bit, queens go down away from the light. You would wonder about them maybe jumping over, but they don't, they go down. And there's really no fighting at all. I mean, we often do this without even smoke, actually. But they're really, being small like that, they're not particularly defensive.
To that point, they're not, you've figured it so they can't leap over and meet.
There is no way for them to get back and forth. We use a canvas inner cover on all our hives.
Yeah.
And on these, we, double check, triple check that we pushed it down. There's no way a bee can get over, and especially a queen can get from one spot side to another. But if a queen doesn't take in one unit, we'll take a frame of eggs and larvae from another one and put it in that. And it's just there to there. So it's really easy to get that one that was queenless into a better condition, where they're more likely to accept a queen and to carry on like with building their population. So we fix them. That's what we call it. Just fix them as we're going. We've really got into bee breeding here in Ontario, and we've been breeding Buckfast bees since 1990. We got stock in from Brother Adam at Buckfast Abbey for tracheal mite resistance. That was what our goal was at that point, was to get stock in that was resistant to mites. There hadn't been bees brought into North America from Europe since 1927. So we had a lot of hurdles to get through to get the approvals for that. Had to come up with a quarantine facility, quarantine methods, the whole protocol and everything. And we proved that it was safe. And so we got the stock in from Brother Adam. It was completely tracheomite resistant. But we developed that as well with breeding work here in the province and other stocks. And but part of the Buckfast breeding is mating queens on islands. And so you can see the pictures there of us having our fun out working with bees on boats and islands. Right, so we've learned that drones are really important in all this equation. Our research has shown, our University of Guelph research has shown that gentle behavior is inherited from the drones. And it's a really useful fact. So we know if our queens mate with drones from gentle collies, then that will pass down to the next generation. So in isolation, we can have the very best hives we have on the island. And we know our queens are only going to mate with those drones. And so a progeny of our island mated queens are gonna be carrying on the traits that we're looking for, including gentle behavior. But locally, we try to flood the area. So we do all our mating, and that includes in making up splits. If we make up splits and put queen cells in them, we mate them in our home apiary. And then we move them out to other yards. If we have them in our home apiary, we have it surrounded with our own colonies. And so, and we try to make sure if there's anything out there that's not up to standard, we pinch the queen and requeen her. So we don't have drones that way. So it's again, a very useful bit of information. These are some of Rory's macro photographs. I think they're really pretty neat. I'm gonna skip quite a bit of this because just you had a lot going on here tonight, and but I'm just I hate it when this happens where you just skip through slides, but just bear with me because I don't think this part is the most important part. This is something I think is kind of important. So this is the most challenging time of year for bees, going into winter and getting through the winter. That's when we have most of our losses. So we think it's really important to be selecting for bees that have the ability to overwinter. And we've come up with a really foolproof method of doing this. We don't breed from any dead hives. Just keep that. Okay. Oh, you got it there, sir. That's great. On Zoom, like that goes nowhere. Anyhow, there's a whole selection criteria that we go through for this process of buck-fast breeding. And we also look at honey production and other things. You can see that one hive at back doing quite well. That's just a little bit of fun that we've had. It's a live hive. It's 27 boxes high. But there's only, when I'm being honest with people, there's only 4 boxes. There are 4 brood chambers, honey supers combined. So we can't take that hive apart. Yeah, there are guy wires in there. I'm sure we did this with no bees, just trying it out. And I had paracord guy lines because they were black and they disappeared. Freestanding, right? Then we had a bet over whether it was going to stand or not over the winter. Those that bet against it standing won. It did, the cord broke, it fell against the trees, stayed intact. So we laid it down for, this takes a lot of people to move this thing around. We laid it down, and then a year ago, July, we reestablished it and got live bees in it, added 7 more boxes just because we wanted it to be bigger. While it was done, might as well, huh? And then we stood it up again and we made a bet on whether it was going to survive the year as a living colony and whether it was going to stand or fall. I was allowed to intervene. There was a bit of debate over that, but it did live and it did stand up. We treat it with apivar by cutting a keyhole slot in and pushing the apivar in sideways, but that's the only thing.
It really replicates a tree trunk, no?
It does, yeah, pretty much. So it's been kind of fun. I call it the world's tallest beehive. I have no idea if it is or not. Queen banking is something we've worked on quite a bit because we can produce queens in the summer. People want them in the spring. And so there's a bit of an offset there in the demand. Like imported queens can be brought in earlier in the year, but we really want to keep our genetics going here. So I try to discourage that in beekeepers, but the big guys don't have a lot of options. But I think they should be overwintering nukes. And we are working more on banking queens. And we started working on this in the 80s, copying some methods used in BC. And then in the last 10 years, working with the tech transfer program to get other beekeepers kind of crowdsourcing information, sharing information on what's working, what isn't. I'm just going to skip through here. These are the nuke boxes that Ontario Beekeepers Association, the Wellington County Beekeepers Association are working with. And if you ever are buying nukes collies from somebody, encourage them to use these boxes. They're really nice boxes to work with. We use them for lots of other purposes too, not just for nukes. I'll skip the standards there. Now, this will only take a couple seconds. We're building a new center at Guelph. Might have heard us talking about it. We've been talking about it for a long time. I started this project 6 years ago. And earlier this week, no, middle of last week, I found out we got the green light to build it. So, yeah, thank you. It started off as a $3 million project. It's now a $16 million project. We have a donor that can put her front name on the front door, which means she's paid for half. But we now have.
House in Toronto instead.
That's right. To get approval to build it from our board of governors, we need to have 75% of the funding and to have a complete design, all the approvals for building. And so we achieved that and they've given us the green light. So I'm hoping that we can start building this winter because we need to remove some trees. It's only 200 meters down the road from where we are, even on the same side of the road. But it's in an old tree nursery. So we have to remove some trees for the building. And you're not allowed to cut trees down to build during bird nesting season. So we could delay us a whole year if we don't get started this winter removing those trees. So I'm really hopeful that that's coming along. These are a few pictures of the building. What we have are pictures of the public side of it, not the lab and the honey production side. Yeah.
Can you divulge who the person is who's going to have the name above on the building?
Yeah, I can. There's a company called Pynchon Environmental. And Don Pynchon was the CEO for the company. His dad started the business. His dad had an orchards and he had turkeys. But he had beekeepers coming in to pollinate the orchards. And that's what really got him cranked up about stuff. He just loved everything he heard from this beekeeper, you know what it's like. And so it seems a little bit of a mismatch there, but that's where it started with this fellow Don's father. And so they started supporting graduate students that we have with scholarships and then learn more about what we're doing. Don passed away, but his wife came and took a course from us and saw the need that we had. We were already trying to build. And so that inspired her and her family. And so I'm not sure whether it's going to be named after the company, Pynchon Environmental, or just Pynchon family name. But, you know, they're super generous, you know, obviously. But every other room in the building has a door on. And his name is going to be on their name. So that's where we're at right now, is trying to do the rest of the fundraising. There's a lot of naming opportunities there, but we're also doing grassroots fundraising. If anybody wants to help out at all, there's a donate tab on our website, which our website will be better in a couple weeks, I promise. There's a few glitches there, but there is a donate tab there if anybody wants to help us out. When I do presentations, if there's any kind of monetary award, it goes straight into that fund. So when I'm doing talks in the States, some of them are bigger groups and they have some funds to help us out. So the Michigan Beekeepers, 2 different groups in Michigan, each gave us $10,000. So our student, their OAC class, Ontario Agriculture class of 79, have raised $100,000 membership. So, but you know, when you get $16 million to raise, even 100,000 is a step. But they all add up together, and you know, the $10 and the 100,000, they all just add up together.
Who's the architect that designed this?
It's Moriyama and Tashima. We had, for the first time ever at the university, we had a design competition because we really wanted to inspire this prime donor to commit to the project, and she wanted to see something spectacular. So we had a design competition, and all the architects came up with projects. In hindsight, there were 5 times what we could afford. They had a budget, but they were competing against each other. So it's kind of a game, and I wouldn't ever do the design competition again. But it did mean our donors signed on. But this doesn't even look like the building that won the design competition. We've had to change it so drastically from that. It'll still be a very nice building and very functional. So that's the front entrance there, looking into the foyer. That's down looking into the classroom exhibit space. It will be a visitor center where people can come and wander through grounds and see the exhibit space inside. But we'll also use that for teaching space, event space in the evenings. And it'll be a very active place. We're already gearing up a lot of activities that will be hit the ground running with in the new building. So you're not going to be able to see that floor plan too well, so I'll skip that. That's in the foyer, looking over to the teaching space. That's the classroom area. Again, it'll look a little different to this, but that's basically the design. This talk was prepared for Michigan, as you can see here. I'll thank them again. That's it. I should have done a bit of editing on that to narrow this down, but you know, it's what you got there. So, my pleasure. Thanks a lot, everybody. I mean, it's really great to get out and see you guys again in such a vibrant, progressive organization, and it's fun when you meet up with people like that. So, congratulations on what you're doing and how you're trying to keep it all rolling through what we've been going through here.
Thank you very much, Paul Kelly. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Marion. That concludes our meeting for tonight. We have December. I think it's going to be our planning meeting for next year, and we're going to have a candy making demonstration straight from Michelle Wolfson. Thank you for providing dinner tonight, Michelle. And we'll have samples again at the meeting on December. So if you want to come and taste some honey candy, please do. And we'll see you in December. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna.
Yeah.